Jerry Howarth, who retired last week. This is Canada Calling and streaming online at canadacalling.com. Prior Smith speaking from Toronto.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
This is Financially Tuned with Daniel Wendell from Dolphin Financial Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Daniel provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. Your money and your plans in perfect harmony. And now, here's Daniel to help you find out how to be financially tuned.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Financially Tuned with me, Dan Wendell, owner of Dolphin Financial Group here in Clearwater. We have a sunny morning this morning and I have a special guest which I'll introduce in a moment. Today's topic is going to be the cost of caring for someone, cost of caring for a loved one. If you tuned in last week, I was on the radio with Tony and we talked about paying for long-term care and the outrageous costs associated with it and how you can pay for it. We're going to touch upon that again today, but we're also going to talk about some of the non-financial aspects of caring for a caregiver because those can be very demanding. And to help me do that, I have a special guest today. We've talked before. I was on her show a couple of weeks back, and she's now going to join us today. Her name is Linda Burhans. She is what I consider an expert when it comes to caring for loved ones. She's written a book about it. I think you're writing another book about it soon, but I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we'll get started on the show. Linda, thanks for joining in, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and, by the way, she's also on the radio immediately following my Saturday 11 o'clock slot. She's on at noon on Saturdays. Yeah. Also a new show. So why don't you introduce yourself, Linda?
So my name is Linda Burhans. I am the gal who cares for the caregivers. I want to be the educator, the resource, and the shoulder for the caregivers. I've facilitated over 1,400 support groups and workshops for caregivers, and I have my show, which will be my one-year anniversary this Saturday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, with Connecting Caregivers, which has just delighted me because I'm able to reach so many more caregivers. Because, as I always say, your caregiving experience can be the most horrific experience of your life or close to beautiful, depending on how you handle it. So
we... last show, we talked about the cost, and I'm going to get into that. And you know this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But the listeners may not. And so we're going to be talking about costs, and we're going to talk about what it's like to be a caregiver, what works, what doesn't work. And we have a full show today, so we're going to have a lot of topics to discuss. And if you want, you can call in. Let me give you that number. We are live today, Thursday, and the number is 727-441-3000. You'll talk to Ed in the studio. He's looking at me, waving, smiling. He's always smiling. And he'll answer the phone, and you can get on the show and ask us a question relevant to today's topic, which is the cost of caring for a loved one. That number again, 727-441-3000. Okay, Linda. So, you know me. I'm a financial guy. I like to talk numbers. And I always reference Mike Tyson. I don't know if you know this. I wrote a book, and one of the chapters was about Mike Tyson's famous quote, which is, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Right? You got, I'm going to go in the ring, I'm going to beat this guy up, and then boom, you get punched. And it's like, oh boy, right? And then everything goes out the window. So when I'm dealing with financial planning for people, I say the same thing. Everyone's got a financial plan until you get punched in the face. And they say, okay, what are the punches? And there are three. One of them is the stock market or some sort of market correction. If you're in real estate or gold, it corrects. So people are aware of that. Oh, if I invest in the market and it crashes, that's a punch. But the other two, people don't really want to talk about. The second one is a long-term care event, meaning you have this great plan for financial, I'm going to retire, I'm going to go on trips, and then you have a stroke, or your husband has a stroke. That's a punch in the face.
Right, or a fall.
Right, anything.
Right.
Or you develop a chronic condition
Right.
that you can no longer manage.
That was not in the plan.
Not in the plan. Well, when they work with me, it's in my plan. We don't plan to get that, but we plan
Right.
what if.
Right.
And so that happens. We're going to talk about that today. But the third one, which I rarely anyone else talks about in the financial world, which I bring up, but it's really because it's really tough to solve, is a family member coming in and ruining the plan. And that family member can be an adult child needing bail money to get out of jail,
Right.
the adult child saying, I want to buy my first house, or your child getting divorced, or your parent having a stroke, or
Right.
needing home health care. And so these retirees are in this sandwich generation where their parents need help, their kids need help, and who
And they
knows,
need
they
help.
need help, right? And so I talk about what are some defensive tactics for this, but there's really no real, true, cookie cutter plan for anybody. Because some people, I don't have kids. Oh, that's great, or is it great? Who knows?
Yeah.
My parents already passed. Okay, we don't have to worry about them.
Right.
But I always ask people, how are your parents? How long did they live? What are they doing now? Where do they live? How's their finances? Well, I'm here to talk about my finances. Yeah, I know you are, but are your parents going to be a burden on you financially? Are your kids
Right.
going to be a burden on you financially? And most financial advisors don't talk about it because it's not an easy conversation.
No, it's not an easy conversation.
It takes extra time.
Yep.
And there's really not
And
a
they have to
simple
maybe
solution.
reveal some things they don't really want to. Or feel a
the-
little uncomfortable with.
That is true. And even though I bring it up in the initial conversations, usually it comes out later.
Yeah.
And, we're working with you for a while. And
Once
then,
they're comfortable with you.
All right, let me tell you about my alcoholic son.
Right.
Because there's certain things that people just don't want to talk about.
Right.
But long-term care, caring for, paying for home health aid, going to a nursing home, dealing with a family member, this is taboo. No one likes to talk about it. And then I'm the bad guy.
Right.
But I have solutions. You have solutions. So let's talk
Definitely.
about them. But so anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that I do bring this up to people. And,
It's important to think about, and it's important to have these conversations, because the biggest problem is not having the conversation, is not being prepared.
you have your own personal experience. Your mother
Right.
needed care.
Right.
And you were a professional caregiver before that, or you just got
No.
baptism by
No,
fire?
It's like, hi, Ma.
Right.
I mean, I didn't even know my mother had dementia until after she was dead, because she was never diagnosed, and she was doing some really funky stuff, and some that I now know is dementia.
Okay.
And I just rolled with it. Like I can remember her telling me one time there was squirrels under her bed. I knew my mother lived in Freedom Square. There was no squirrels under her bed. But she was so agitated, so I just started hitting under the bed with the broom, and she was happy. Well, I didn't know that was part of dementia.
See, so I was kidding, saying,
No.
but you got baptism by fire, and
Right.
which is what happens to most families. Okay, most families' plans, if mom needs help, what's the plan?
Right. Right.
Mom doesn't need help. Mom's never needed help.
Right.
Well, mom's 90. Okay, mom may need help.
Well,
And
we're living so much longer than we did before.
we are living longer, and people didn't plan for that.
No.
Mom and dad's generation, the people in their 90s now, did not expect to live that long. They took Social Security as early as possible.
Right.
They might have a pension that's on $1970.
Exactly.
So they don't have the disposable funds to just pay someone to come in.
Well, even with my mom was 78 years old, okay? So she had this big 3-story English Tudor house on Long Island. And with her Social Security, she could barely pay for the taxes, the fuel, the insurance, or whatever. That house is all she had. Thank God she had that house, because it worked out for us. But it was a slippery slope, because I thought she was going to live a whole lot longer than 78. And was there going to be enough money to take care of her?
Well, let's talk about the money aspect of it. So those that missed the show last week, you can go to dolphinfinancialgroup.com and listen in. But you can also go online to dolphinfinancialgroup.com and just connect with us to get this information. I'm going to reference the Genworth Cost of Care study. They come out with this every year, and it tells us the cost for different healthcare services. And I'm going to go through these quickly because we covered them last show, but you're not going to be surprised by these numbers, but many people will. If you need home health care, so this is a home health care aid,
Right.
someone coming in, they're a professional,
Right.
and some people need that.
Right.
You know,
Somebody just needs somebody to prepare their food, or take them to the doctor, or help them bathe.
right. And you might have taken care of your mother, but what if you had to work and you couldn't be there.
My business went in the tank.
Well, that's another. This is good. This is not good. Sorry. No, this isn't good. But this is real.
My business was over.
Your
after
business
taking
ended,
care of my mom.
Because it's not like a part-time thing that you can just show up.
No.
So a home health care aide coming in cost about $4,000 per month.
Per month.
In the Tampa Bay area. All right, and that's what people want. They want to stay in their home.
Right.
But staying in your home isn't cheap. You still got to pay the mortgage if you have it, and taxes, and insurance. But you also have to pay $4,000 to have a professional come in.
Right.
Because no one's doing that for free unless you're a family member. And that's not free, as we just learned. You lose stuff.
One way or the other.
Adult daycare, this is you drop the parent off. That's not for everybody. You got to be able to get around.
Certain level, right.
That's $1,700 a month. And that's if you use it. That's a pay-as-you-go type thing. A assisted living facility, 1 bedroom, private, $3,000 a month in Tampa area. And then the scary one, which no one wants to ever do, the nursing home. A semi-private room is $8,000 a month. A private room is $9,700 per month, which is clearly more than the average person brings in income, let alone outflow cash.
Right.
Cut me a check to $9,700.
Right.
Now that's in 2017, so they didn't do this year yet because it's not here, but they did project out what it would be in the future. Would you say that a 60-year-old is going to need this type of service, or is it going to be someone that's older?
Probably someone that's older, but not necessarily. If you get cancer, like you say, if you have a stroke, many people have strokes 55 years old. If you're in your 70s and you have a fall, lots of times that fall is the end.
Or the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. God forbid if you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Which, by the way, doesn't necessarily kill you.
No, you could live forever.
You can live a long life.
Many people with Alzheimer's and dementia are physically healthy. It's just
And just because you're physically healthy doesn't mean you could be left alone.
Exactly.
And so that's not cheap either.
No.
But there is, and I know you have a lot of experience with this, and a lot of your partners that you deal with on your show come on. They have these new facilities coming up. So people are building these dementia focused facilities or just assisted living facilities that cater to this group.
They have to, because there's so many coming in every single day.
Everyone's living longer.
And it's very difficult because when you're taking care of someone that has Alzheimer's, I mean, they can wander, they can put themselves on fire. It's a safety issue lots of times, not just the exhaustion about I just can't do this 24/7, because they really have to be watched all the time.
And so a 55-year-old today, you say, oh, man, I don't, $9,700 in a nursing home, I can't afford that. But they don't need it. Oh, I don't need it.
Right.
That's for old people.
Right.
Right? That's never going to happen. Well, now you're your parents' age, right? And you're like, okay, now let's fast forward 20 years. So the 55-year-old is now 75. There's a better chance they're going to need something.
Right.
Let's look at the costs in 2037. Sounds so far away. So now imagine this. 2037, you'll be what, 68?
I'm 64. So these are my numbers you're giving me here.
So you'll be 84, okay? Picture this, Sicily, 1984.
Right.
Okay. A home health care aide is now $7,200 a month.
Oh, my goodness.
Adult daycare, $3,000 a month. A assisted living facility, $5,500 a month. And a private nursing home, I don't even want to say it. A private nursing home, $17,500 a month.
Crazy.
And that's based on just general health care inflationary costs. And this is on the cost of care survey from Genworth that you can get online. So that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so someone planning now at 55 for 20 years down the road doesn't need to think, all right, I need $9,000 a month set aside for a nursing home. I need $17,000, $18,000 a month.
Well, I always say to my girlfriends, a couple of my girlfriends, their husbands have passed away, and probably my husband will pass away before my time. And I say, you know what? We need to buy a 5-bedroom house on the Gulf. And like the Golden Girls did, each have a bedroom and then have a full-time nurse or a full-time CNA in there to take care of us, because who's going to be able to afford that on our own?
No, yeah, that's a great concept. I think it's going to catch on.
So, yeah, in some ways, but not for everybody.
No, because, like my mom, she plays mahjong with her friends, but could she live with them? No, she can't even come visit me. I need my own space. No, you don't. No,
well, it was very funny because my best friend Lynn,
yes,
is my co-host on the show. 4 of her girlfriends came in from Canada this past week that she went to high school with. By the last day, it was like, bye-bye! I mean, we had a great time. We had a lot of laughs, but it was like, bye-bye!
Yeah,
so you have to have the right people in that mix.
That's true. You have to. So that's a good strategy. 55, start thinking about who you're going to live with 20 years from now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It could be spouses, couples, sharing.
Well, I know in the end it's probably going to be her and I. So we have the conversation. We have the conversation. I say, if I stop bathing, you can hit me. But I also seriously tell her, God forbid, I get Alzheimer's and I have to go into a community, because she's a few years older than me. So I always say, you don't have to drag your old behind there to visit me, because I won't know. But that's a conversation we need to have.
And you need to have it prior to. So if you have a question about this, I'll give you that number to call in again. And ask Linda or I a question. We're going to get into some more details about other costs that people don't think about. I do want to cover quickly how people can pay for it, but that number again is 727-441-3000. So, okay, now you need $8,000 a month to pay for this in 10 years. People don't want to plan for that, but I talked to them about it, and I went through different ways you can pay for it. You could set aside money.
Right.
That's, some people can, right?
Right.
You can go on Medicaid route and have the state pick up the tab. There's a whole bunch of ramifications from there. And as a single person, I think you're allowed $2,000 to your name. So you basically have to be destitute, which,
right.
And
then unfortunately, some people just will be.
Right, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. There is Medicaid, which is great because it does give you a fallback.
But it doesn't give you much choice.
It doesn't give you choice. If you want choice, you have to go a little bit different. You can go a standard long-term care policy, which are very expensive. We talked when I was on your show about the hybrid policies. It's a life insurance that goes to the kids or the grandkids if you die. But if you need it for your own self on home health care or nursing home, you use it.
Right.
So, I'm going to give everything to little Johnny. But I'll tell you what, if I need to if I need a nurse to come see me, sorry, Johnny, I'm going to spend my own money on myself.
I hope so, because you know what? I see caregivers all the time. Oh, they're just saving for Johnny, and they can't take care of themselves anymore. And their expression is, I'm saving for a rainy day. I said, honey, it's storming.
It's raining.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to see that.
I think you have a caller.
Oh, we have a call? Jerry? Hi, Jerry. This is Dan Wendell, Dolphin Financial Group. What's your question? How can I help?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm calling because I feel like I have a kind of a double whammy here, and I think it's relevant to what you're talking about today on the show. I have a child with some special needs that requires a lot of income, so it's not really taking care of my parent, taking care of my child, as you mentioned, and I'm also trying to balance that with providing for that child when I'm not here anymore, in terms of some kind of financial tool or mechanism to make sure that he's provided for in the future. So I feel like I'm juggling this and dealing with two things at the same time. I was wondering what your thoughts are on that subject and where I can go next for help.
Okay, so your child is not like how old is the child roughly? Adult child we're talking?
He's 41 years old.
Okay, so when people I say child a lot,
they're 3.
They could be 50, right? So you're dealing with a very common situation for someone with special needs. Now,
well, it's not really special. It's just that he doesn't work that hard, and he's kind of been living off of me for a while now.
Okay, so there's a difference here. Now, there's people that need assistance that have what we call special need. They might have a mental disability, physical disability, and you can create a special needs trust. That's a lawyer discussion, which, by the way, might be a good discussion for you regardless.
Anyway, yeah.
Right. So what you're going to want to do is you're taking care of them, but something happens to you. That's your fear. You're going to want to have money set aside to take care of that child because they're probably not financially astute to do so themselves. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're going to want to do is talk to a lawyer about setting up some sort of trust. And what that's going to do is allow you, in a way, to rule from the grave, but also protect your child when you've gone and set it up now. And you're going to want to do that now rather than waiting until you run into trouble, because If you wait till last minute, it might be too late, or you might run into some difficulty there. And you could fund it with various tools and financial instruments, and I help people do that. But when it comes to the legal ramifications and setting it up, I would outsource that to a lawyer who handles that. And we have several that we can recommend to you. I would recommend giving me a call after the show. I'll give you that number, and you can call me, and we can set up a time to talk about it. The number is 888-508-5935. That's Dolphin Financial Group, and we could talk about not only how to set up that through the legal aspect, but also how to fund it and make sure the money's there. And then what I might add, too, is that while it's great that you're taking care of your son, you got to make sure you take care of yourself, too.
Exactly.
Because if something happens to you, you're going to want somebody to take care of you, and it sounds like your son can't take care of himself, let alone you. So you're going to want to build in the plan what's going to happen for you if you need help. Where's the money going to come from, and how's it going to be distributed, especially if you're by yourself?
Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. I guess. So maybe we're looking at two separate financial tools to get me to that end, instead of kind of one plan, like an annuity or something.
Right. So you're going to want to you got to worry about the legal aspect first, because what Linda mentioned earlier is, she didn't even know her mom had dementia, right? And it's her own mother. So you may not realize what's going on with yourself. So you want to have it set up prior to legally. Once you have the legal documents and plan in place, then you worry about how to fund it with financial instruments that'll suit that. And that's a whole different ball of wax. So these are two very different things. First, set it up structurally so you're protecting your son and yourself, and then we figure out how we're going to pay for it. And you create the financial instruments that are appropriate for you. Because sometimes some financial tools are great, some are terrible for this situation. You want to make sure you pick the right financial instruments, and that's a separate discussion. You got to keep these two. Now, you don't want to have them in silos. You don't want to go see a lawyer and then go see. You want to work with someone that can work a team, right? That can handle both.
I'm so glad you called in, because this is really something important.
Thank you, and I appreciate the help. So I guess I'll go to your website then, Dolphin Financial.
Yeah, dolphinfinancialgroup.com. It's got my phone number on there, but you could just call and we could set up a time, especially if you're low. I don't know if you're in Clearwater or local, but I go all over Tampa. So
you get around.
And, we could talk. Linda will talk to you if you want to talk about that, but it sounds like you need to get some legal structure first.
Exactly.
Thanks for your call, Jerry.
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Linda. You have a great day.
Have a delicious day.
Wow. Okay. So that's an interesting. So there's a case, right? So he didn't say anything about parents.
Right.
He didn't also say anything about himself. He kind of mentioned, but he was worried about his child.
Right.
And that's what people do.
Right.
We're back to where we were before we called. Little Johnny, and people living in squalor.
Right.
With $500,000 in the bank, food rotting in their fridge because they don't want to spend little Johnny's inheritance.
Right.
Now,
little Johnny's not even coming over and visiting them.
Well, right. Sometimes if you ask Johnny, hey, and he'll say, hey, I want my mom to spend it. I don't want her.
Yeah, some of them are like, please.
Please, spend it all. I don't care if you leave me nothing. I just want you to live happily. Then there's the other bad Johnny, bad seed Johnny, that says, oh, you're fine.
My mother doesn't need home help.
Yeah, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to talk to her about,
But, either way, that conversation is good. And if little Johnny, if you really don't worry about mom's money or dad's money, have that conversation with them, please. Because they just feel they're your parents and it's their responsibility to worry about you and take care of you.
I have a son named Johnny, so I feel, little Johnny. We call him Johnny. Johnny Cakes, as we call him. But talk to me more about that, Linda. Talk to me about the conversation, because I have conversations with people, and I say, you got to bring your kid in. You got to talk to your aging parent about this. But I'm not there. I don't know what that's like. I know what it's like to talk to my parents about it, and it's miserable because they're from Long Island and they know everything.
I get it.
Right? And no one wants to be told what to do. No one wants to be indicating that they can't make their own decisions. Right. But you have to do that. You have to start planning for that you can't while you can.
Exactly, while you can. And I think the earlier we start the conversation, the earlier we start the conversation with the entire family. I mean, I tell my grandchildren, there's going to be a time I might not be able to take care of myself, and I may need you to help. We have to educate them, first of all. And it's not a fearful conversation. It's a great conversation, because do I want to not take care of myself or have somebody else making my decisions for me? Believe me, that's the last thing I want.
You don't want it, right? It's like car insurance. You buy it because you have to, but you don't want it. You don't want to use it.
No.
You don't want to have this conversation, but will you want it if you need it?
And you know what? You need to have the conversation. You know, if you got 3 kids, let's say.
Yes.
Okay. You know who's going to be the designated daughter, I call them.
I got 3 boys, which is not looking good for me, right?
So, maybe the designated daughter-in-law when that comes to,
there it is,
whatever.
there it is.
But, it's going to be the single one, the closest one, the oldest one, or whatever that. Now, many times you'll have a family where all 3 daughters want to work together. Many times you have a family where just one does everything. And that's one thing I want to say to the listeners out there. If you're just that one person taking care of everything, you don't have to take everybody into consideration with every decision. You need to sit down with your parents and make your decisions for what's going to go on and what's going to happen.
Do you see that? I mean, there's usually one out of state. You say there's 2 kids. One, the daughter's
especially in Florida.
Right. The parent, especially because the parents move here. Although that's changing now.
Right.
But the parents move here. The 3 kids are out of state. Maybe one of them lives closer than the others. Usually the daughter seems to be more caring. I don't want to get into that conversation.
Right, that's a whole nother thing.
That's life. But
see, then there's the fact, too, like we talked about kids earlier. People used to come to my support group. So they're like 80 years old, let's say, or 85 years old. Oh, my kids don't come to see me and everything. Well, still in my head, those kids are 35 years old, and I'm thinking, those kids don't come to see them. No, their kids are 65.
That's a good point.
The kids got their own issues.
Well, everyone's got problems,
right?
You're 35, you got a new family, maybe. You're 60, you're looking at retirement.
If your kid don't come back home.
Right. Well, that's another story. You got the sandwich generation. You got the aging adult kids. We just had a caller talk about that, and we got the aging parents. What would you? We're going to take a quick break in a moment, but what would you say? How would you get the conversation started? Because it's an awkward one. Who's going to start it? Especially when the parent...
I was fine with my family in particular. If I can give them an example of what happened to another family, like these people didn't plan and look what happened to them. They don't have anything now. I think this is a conversation we need to have. I think it opens up the door a little bit more. If you can give them an example, or you can give them an example of something really good that happened, a family that did make the planning, a family that did take care of everything, a family that everyone is thriving.
When we get back from break, I'm going to have you give us an example, a story, if you can.
Yeah.
A good story or a bad story, your choice. And then I also want to cover some of the other costs to the actual caregiver, the family caregiver, that people don't think about until they're doing it.
Yep.
So we're going to take a quick break. I'll give you the number again if you want to call in, 727-441-3000. But you're listening to Dolphin Financial Radio. Today we're talking about the cost of caring for a loved one with Linda Burhans. We'll be right back.
Legacy. Even the word leaves a lasting impression. Legacy planning is an important piece of your financial puzzle and an important part of what you will leave behind for future generations. That is why we give our clients the From the Heart Journal and your guide to IRA and legacy planning. From the Heart Journal was created for the benefit of your family and loved ones. It will let you document and explore future financial wishes. The Guide to IRA and Legacy Planning will help protect your retirement assets from mistakes. Both of these helpful resources are available in the Retirement Toolkit. This toolkit will give the information you need to help secure your retirement. To request your copy, all you need to do is visit our website at dolphinfinancialgroup.com or call us at Dolphin Financial Group, 888-508-5935. Get your copy today. Good advice is sometimes hard to come by. That's why you should find a financial professional you can trust. There may not be such a thing as a perfect investment. Every financial choice involves trade-offs. It is helpful to have a financial professional on your side to help you organize your goals and have a better understanding of the pros and cons of any financial decision. At Dolphin Financial Group, we focus on working with you to meet your financial goals and provide the advice that can help minimize the hazards you may face. Give our office a call at 888-508-5935 or visit us online at dolphinfinancialgroup.com.
Hello out there. Tune in every Saturday at noon on TAN Talk for Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. Every Saturday at noon, we will find resources, education, and a shoulder for the caregivers. I know it's tough, but we can work it out together. Look forward to you tuning in on Saturdays at noon, where you'll have tons of information. Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregiver.
And welcome back to Financially Tuned with me, Dan Wendell, Dolphin Financial Group. You're listening to Dolphin Financial Radio. Today's guest is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
Yeah.
And she has been giving us some insight, and she's about to give us a whole lot more in the second half of this show about what some of the things people can and can't do when it comes to caring for a loved one. We talked about the extraordinary costs, so that might be depressing to a lot of people, and how much it's going to cost 20 years from now, which is even more depressing.
Right.
But the key is you got to plan for it. Now, before we went into break, we talked about what are some tactics or things that work, and you said sometimes a family member needs to hear a story before they'll actually do something.
Yeah.
And like for instance, why don't you get that test done? Well, I don't want to get the test done. Well, everyone at your age should get it done. And then their friend develops some sort of condition that caught by the test, and the next thing you know, I'm going to get that test now.
Exactly.
Right? So sometimes it takes
and maybe you're going to make the story. I make the damn story if I have to. I heard this person, they didn't go and they didn't get their checkup. If they had gone and got this done, it would have turned out better. But my biggest concern is that the caregiver many times is worried about the person they're caring for, but they're not taking care of themselves.
They neglect themselves.
Yeah, and I see this time and time again. I've facilitated over 1,400 support groups. I see the caregiver drag themselves in. Sometimes they have their loved one with them. Their loved one looks better than them. Because they're so busy just taking care of that person and make sure that they're taking their medicine, make sure that they're eating. They're not making sure if they're eating crackers in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And there was one gentleman took care of his wife for a long time. He came to my support groups, and he used to bring her in the beginning. And he was Dick. He was such a great guy. And he used to say to me in the beginning when he'd bring her to the group, do her clothes match? Does her hair look good? Because he was taking her full time. And I watched her Alzheimer's progress and progress and progress.
And how old was he and she?
Probably around 80.
Okay.
But it wasn't the plan. They had retired to Florida. He was a very grateful man, very grateful that they did get to play like 200 golf courses, and things like that. But I watched him become wearier and wearier and wearier. And after a while, he couldn't go out of the house, and he had to put locks on all the doors. And then he put her into a community for a while, but then he felt guilt about that, and he brought her back home. Well, he wore himself out so much that he ended up dying in the living room, and she didn't even know he was dead. He was sitting and she thought he was taking a nap. She was watching TV. He was there 6 hours before the neighbors always saw. And that's another important thing for caregivers. Talk to your neighbors so that they can help watch out for you. Mm-hmm. The neighbors saw that the car didn't go out.
Well, thank goodness for the neighbors.
Thank goodness for the neighbors. But you know what?
Neighbors aren't like they used to be.
Now where was Mary going to go? Who's going to make that decision now? Where was Mary going to go?
So did he not? Oh, you don't know. You may not know, but he may not have had plans.
He just took her back home.
Right. I'm never going to die. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of you. And then I'm gone. It's like, well, who's the backup?
Right.
And the people don't plan for that.
Right. So now somebody else made decisions for Mary.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And probably a stranger.
Which is why you have to share the burden. You have to, if you don't have family, you got to come up with a legal document that has it, right? But even still, I recommend a legal document because, something happens and you have 3 kids. It's better if you have things mapped out ahead of time.
For everybody.
For everybody. The kids, all well-intentioned, might have different intentions.
Right.
And they might go toe-to-toe with the sibling because they believe this is what you wanted. Unless you write it down.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a scary story, though. And I think it leads to, I'm a financial guy. Here's a funny story. I'm a financial guy. I help people with their money every day. Retirement, where to invest, how to plan for long-term care events. If something happened to my wife, if she just decided to go on a week vacation, none of the bills would get paid. I don't even know
where stuff is.
I don't know where any of the financial stuff is in my house, believe it or not. She runs the show.
Right.
So that's not a good situation. And I see it a lot where a couple will come and there's one that's sitting there not saying a word and the other one's dominating the conversation. And it's like, well, we need to both be on the same page here because something happens to you. Oh, nothing's going to happen to me. Hey. I'm going to die first, if anything.
Yeah.
we need to plan for that. But that's an interesting.
And I see this all the time. You know, when I was just thinking the other day, I can easily, off the top of my head, name 10 caregivers from my support groups that died before their loved one. And you know,
that's not part of the plan. That's not their plan.
That's definitely not part of the plan. And, you know, and then there's the whole thing, too, especially when we're dealing with the wonderful older generation that we have right now. Sometimes a woman never wrote a check in her life.
Yes.
She doesn't have a clue.
Yeah.
If her husband passes away, you know, and if Johnny's not the nice Johnny,
right? Johnny
can come in.
Yeah, and elder abuse is an issue, financial elder abuse, I should say, and the leading culprits are family, believe it or not.
Well, you know, we have all the problems with the oxycodone and the drugs and all that kind of stuff, and then they're living with mom and dad and taking some of mom and dad's medicine that they have that, you know, when they fell and broke their hip. Yeah,
it's scary. I'm going to reference another survey or a study, The Journey of Caregiving. I think Merrill Lynch put this one out. Honor, responsibility, and financial complexity. And in one section, they talk about some of the costs that caregivers have to experience. Caregivers are making financial sacrifices. 30% had to cut back on expenses. So you talked about taking care of your mom. You lost your job, basically.
Yeah.
And, you know, what do you do at that point? Do I take care of mom or do I work?
Right.
Because you can't do both.
No.
So some people, 30% had to cut back on expenses. 24%, a quarter, had trouble paying their own bills. Right? 21% dipped into savings. I've seen this. So now their retirement that they were planning is put on hold and goes backwards because they got to care for mom.
Right.
18% couldn't contribute to other expenses or savings. So, you know, you got your plan, I'm going to retire at 65, I'm 60, I got 5 more years, I'm going to really plow into this in my savings. Uh-oh, dad's in trouble.
Yeah.
No more savings.
Right.
And then no more retirement.
Right.
15% took on debt to cover for the cost of care. I bet you that's higher now. 15% took on debt. And then 53% had any of the above. So if you're going to care for a loved one, there's a very, very good chance that you're going to face financial difficulties of your own.
Yes.
So when I meet with people, I say, hey, how's your parents? Oh, they're fine. Where are they? How's their health? How is their parents' health?
Right.
What is their financial? Oh, they're fine. They'll be fine. They got the... No.
And then you start telling them some numbers.
And then you start talking about numbers. Oh, so they can afford to... So if they go to nursing home, they can pay $116,000 to the nursing facility ABC over in Tampa? $116,000. Yeah, that's a private nurse. Right, a year. That's a private nursing home cost. The average stay is 3.5 years. So what are we looking at? $400,000?
Yeah. Oh, Mom doesn't have that much money.
Oh yeah, well no.
Yeah.
She's got $40,000 in her checking.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll cover a couple months.
Yeah.
And so.
And where does Mom want to live?
What does Mom want?
What does Mom want?
What does Mom want? I don't know.
Does Mom want to stay at home? Does Mom want to go into a big facility? Does Mom? How is?
And then what do you want? Do you want Mom living with you? Some people say, no, I don't want to live with my mom.
I just met recently with a group of women who were all over the age of 75, and the conversation was, do you want to live with your kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them don't want to live with their kids either.
Well, a lot of people want to stay in their own space, right?
Right.
They want their comfort. But that's not necessarily, and that's usually cheapest. It's usually cheapest if you could stay in your own home.
Right.
Pay for it. Next week, Elena's coming on. You know Elena. She's going to talk about reverse mortgages and how you can use your home equity to stay in it for long-term care. But not everyone has that luxury. Once you start exiting the home or hiring or going somewhere else, the costs go up.
Right.
And I think most people like to stay there, but it might be easier for the daughter to say, hey, I know you live in Florida. I know all your stuff is there, but I live in North Carolina. Are you going to come live with me? It's like, great, you know. So you could go that route, and that might be better than going to a nursing home because no one wants to do that ever.
Right.
So, but can you afford to pull that off?
Right.
If you'd like to stay in your home, you better have plans to pay for it because you can't expect your children to be ready. Because I'll tell you now, the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds, even the 60-year-olds are not prepared for themselves.
No, a lot of them can't even buy a house.
Right. They can't even pay for their own lives, let alone an aging parent. Right. So the aging parent's idea of back when they were young and the grandparents were involved, it was a different family dynamic back then.
Yeah.
You know, grandma
They
needed
lived
help
with their parents in the beginning of their marriages, and then went out. And,
right.
You know.
So that's gone. I mean, for some parts of the country and cultures, it works still. But for most people, money talks.
Yeah.
If you want the luxury of staying in your home or going to the facility of your choice, you better have it paid for in advance. You better have a plan to pay for it.
And you need to look at these things in advance. You know, all of a sudden one day, oh, mom needs some help. And now you're scrambling because mom fell or mom had surgery or whatever. You need to contact a home health care company ahead of time. Just meet with them. You don't pay any money. They come, they do all the paperwork. So if the time comes that you need it, you just make that one phone call. And you're not making rash decisions.
That's right.
You're not making decisions that you're not sure of.
Or you're not having someone else make the decisions for you.
Right.
So can you confirm that if you go on a tour of an assisted living facility, they're not going to just lock you up in it?
No, they will not. No, they
Right?
will not.
You know, if I go to look at one, that means I'm gonna have a stroke.
Well,
right?
it's very funny because some of the support groups I do are not as well attended when they're in a community than when they're at a church or a library or somewhere else because they're like, oh, if I get in there.
Yeah, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
That's where old people go, right? No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's where people that are planning ahead go.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to realize, too, is your loved one a social person or not? Because some people can stay home, and even though they want to stay home, it's really not the best thing for them to be home totally alone.
Right.
So they need that adult daycare, or they need someone to come in just for company.
I was reading books on longevity, and I can't remember which book it was, but there are a lot of studies that indicate, or it was the secret, it was the happiness, the why people are happy. You know, they took, I think it was 300 Harvard grads, and then they took 300 guys or kids from the slums of Boston. And they followed them for 70 years, and they're still doing this. And the final result was it didn't matter how much money you had, how much education you had. Those that were happiest were those that connected with other people and had lasting relationships, not only just marriage, but friends.
Right.
And so if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have that social network, you're going to have less happiness and most likely more physical issues because
it just goes with it.
It goes with it. And people don't appreciate that. And so as much time and money people invest in the market and paying for long-term care and investing money, I say you should invest equal time in building long-lasting relationships.
And join a Kiwanis or a Rotary or do something for yourself and for your community at the same time. And then you are surrounded by a tribe.
And do it while you're healthy, not when you're
right.
destitute and hurt, because you're not going to want to go when you're in that situation.
Exactly.
But those people will come to you to help you.
Well, there's one guy that in my Kiwanis group, he was just 95 years old. So one of the other guys picks him up and brings him because he's been in the club for 30 years, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And so it's not a problem. It's like a family. They pick him up and they bring him to the meeting, you know, we do whatever. That'll be me one day.
And then, right, and if you pick someone up this day, 10 years down the road, someone else might pick you up.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about some of the other costs or some of the other challenges that caregivers face. This is much more your expertise than mine, but I'm looking at the same study, The Journey of Caregiving, it's called. And the biggest challenges of caregiving, number one, is mental and physical time and effort involved. Notice I didn't say anything financial. The number one challenge that caregivers face is mental and physical.
Caregivers come to my support group. Their loved one passes away, they come back. When they come back, they say the thing they most regret is that they were too task-orientated during their caregiving experience. That all they did was worry about, are they going to the bathroom, are they eating, are they going to the doctors, and you're running, 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 and you never sit down and talk with your person, your loved one. You never spend that time. Because caregivers, and listen to me, guys, what happens is your neighbor comes over, your friend comes over, your Kiwanis or church or whatever, and they say to the caregiver, is there anything I can do to help you? And this is what the caregiver says, no, I'm okay, which is the biggest
lie
baloney in the world. And I think part of the reasons caregivers do that is because they're running in that little tornado. And I'm thinking, Woody, are you going to bathe my mother? Or are you going to... So I suggest to caregivers to take a little time to sit down and write out a list of some things you can accept help with. So that when your neighbor comes over or whatever, you pull it out and you say, hey, could you mow my lawn? And they go, yeah, I've been asking you for 6 months.
And people want to help.
That's why they ask you.
That's why they ask. And people feel better when they help.
After my mother passed away, I met a woman in the supermarket. She said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm okay." She said, "I'm sick of hearing that from you, Linda." She said, "I have to tell you, when you were taking care of your mother, you stole my joy." I said, "I did what?" She said, "I could see you swimming in quicksand, and every time I asked to help you, you said, 'No, I'm okay.' You stole my joy, Linda." Yikes.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yikes, I don't want to do that.
No,
So
stop.
don't steal somebody's joy.
Yeah, stop stealing joy, everybody.
Let them help you.
Accept the help, because you're not only helping yourself, you're helping your loved one, and you're helping the person that's helping, because they're getting benefit out of it, believe it or not.
Yeah, and you'll help them another day. And you know what? As much as we think, this is my responsibility, this is my loved one, whatever. Once in a while, they need a little break from you, too.
That's a good point.
It's like, just go away for a couple hours.
One of the biggest issues people face in retirement is, now that they're retired, they're alone at home with extra time with their spouse.
Right.
And all of a sudden, wait, I married them?
Yeah.
I haven't had this kind of quality time for 40 years. Go back to work.
Yeah.
So would you recommend that people outsource help, but can they also pay? Would money help in this case? Like, hey, I'm going to pay for a nurse to bathe my mom.
You
let
can
me
have
get
someone
over
that'll
that.
just come in and bathe your person. See, a lot of people don't know about that.
Right, exactly.
I had a guy come into my support group one time. He was taking care of his mom. He's a landscaper. He goes, "I can't bathe my mom. I can't do it."
He doesn't like it.
I said, "Somebody can come in and do that." No.
That they have that?
Yeah.
But
because you don't know until you need it.
They don't know it. And so having some money set aside for a home health care aid, we have that. We talked about it. That's the cheapest option, is having someone come in. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be, randomly.
And build your community, because I found was pretty cool recently. There was two women that were coming to my support groups, each taking care of their moms. And it was just the two women and the two moms. There were no husbands, no spouses anywhere. And they were financially strapped too. So what they do now is the two moms stay at one house during the day. So they only need one home health person to take care of two of them, because they're able to do that. They're in the shape that they can do it.
That's an excellent idea.
And then one day a week, the one woman takes both the moms. And then another day, the other woman takes both the moms. So they get some time together. The moms have socialization. They're saving a little bit of money. So we can do that. So, I always say, try to get into a support group. Get all the education you can, because you're going to learn things there, and you're going to find solutions there you might not find anywhere else.
That's a great point. So money can't solve it, but it can help in understanding what's available to outsource. And having some money set aside for that's good. Before we go, we're getting close to the end. I want to talk to you about what surprised me is the second biggest challenge. Again, has nothing to do with money. It's navigating the healthcare system.
It's frightening.
Now, I'm familiar with the healthcare system. I help people pick, health insurance plans, and it's a bear. It's annoying. Deductibles, copays. This goes beyond that. I have a feeling that I now have to be a healthcare advocate and understand the difference between hospitalization and nursing facility.
And which one's good,
which one's good,
not.
Who should I be talking to? That kind of stuff. If you don't have a degree, or you're not in it, it's scary. And I guess this is what people are saying. So tell me more. Well,
first of all, when you go to the doctors, bring a tape recorder with you. If your doctor doesn't want you to tape record them, get another doctor.
Oh, good point.
Because you can't remember everything.
No.
And you're not going to remember everything. And you're going to be emotional. And now you got to repeat all this stuff to your sister.
Right.
And your sister's a nurse.
Right.
She's going to ask you questions you don't know.
Technology helps here, too. You can send an audio recording or just type it out.
Yeah. But, I think that's an important thing to consider.
Do people come to you and say, hey, I don't know what a nursing facility is. I don't know what a hospital, I don't know any of this.
What's an ALF? What is what? People don't know. And you have to be very careful where you go, because it could be a wonderful, wonderful facility. And then a year later, the management changes, all the staff changes, and I go back there, and I don't want to bring my dog there. So you have to be really careful who you're referring, where you're referring. And you need to, as a professional, I know I need to, as a professional, go check on my referrals. And make sure they're continuing to do the right job. And
because things change, you're right. And there's new facilities popping up, and there's a shortage of nurses and healthcare people in this world. So,
and there's a shortage of memory care places now.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it. All of a sudden, this place is in assisted living or something, and now they're like, okay, down this hallway is now memory care.
Right. We have a memory care facility.
Yeah, well, all it is a door with a lock on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that the last thing that people that have memory care issues should be on the second floor. They need to be where they can walk, where they can get out, where they can do.
Another equally big challenge was changing dynamics in our relationship. This is probably true and dear to your heart.
When my mom started calling me mom.
Wow.
That's really kind of scary and a little creepy. But then when it gets to the point one day that she's got to take her medicine, this is Mom, take your medicine. She said, okay. So you got to use it the best you can, because it's heartbreaking when that happens.
Well, let me change the subject before we get too emotional here, because it's a tough one. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. We're talking about the cost of caring for a loved one. The financial burden is high, but the emotional and physical burden can be equally high, and people need to be aware of it. Now, you are an expert in this. You've written a book. Tell us how to get your book, how to get in touch with you. I mean, anybody working with me, and we start having these questions that I'm just not an expert on, we'll call Linda and get her in there, whether she likes it or not. But
okay.
If someone wants to just talk to you and learn more about your support groups?
You can just call me at 727-365-8383. You can go to lindascaregiverconnections.com. You can go to connectingcaregiversradio.com and hear all my previous shows. On Linda's Caregiver Connections, there's a weekly blog, there's resources, there's a caregiver contest where you can nominate a caregiver to take care of them. And I have 2 books. One is Good Night and God Bless, and one is Connecting Caregivers, Answers to the Questions You Didn't Know You Needed to Ask. I think that would be the most important book.
That's
the first one's From the Heart.
Yeah.
And you can get those on Amazon, Kindle.
And you do a radio show on this station?
Yes, I do a radio show.
Saturday
at noon, right after your show.
Right. So if you're listening right now on Saturday, stay tuned, because she's going to be on in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's cool.
But thank you for coming on. And to those listening, the key takeaway, I think, and Linda will agree with me, is you have to plan for this.
Yes.
While you're healthy, while you're mentally acute,
yes.
You can't wait till the last hour, because that's when stuff hits the fan. And you have to involve family. Start the conversation. I know it's tough. No one wants to do it, but it's much better if you plan ahead.
Yeah.
So we're gonna if you missed last week's show on actually paying for this, you can go to dolphinfinancialgroup.com and listen to the archives. This show is going to be archived as well, and you can go to Dolphin Financial Group to get that. If you want to talk to me about your financial, how to plan for this, how to pay for this, and set aside money, there are ways. The number is 888-508-5935. And any last words of wisdom, Linda? What would be your final word of wisdom?
Take care of yourself, and then you can take care of your loved one better.
Take care of yourself. I always use that, the oxygen mask in the plane. Put it on yourself, then help the loved ones. Linda, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you have a wonderful day, or as you say,
have a delicious day.
Thanks for listening to Dolphin Financial Radio. And again, Dan Wendell, Dolphin Financial Group, right in Clearwater, Florida, 888-508-5935, or go to dolphinfinancialgroup.com. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Financially Tuned. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Daniel Wendell at Dolphin Financial Group. Call 888-508-5935 or visit their website at dolphinfinancialgroup.com.